Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I am JD.
And I've been drinking since noon. Also, I'm Joe.
And today, we're throwing a bizarre answer to a question no one asked about Gremlins. And that would be 1986's Critters onto the slab and carving our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims. If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then give us a review or follow on your favorite podcasting app.
Do it.
Also, check out our webpage, we give you brainworms.com. This poorly cobbled together website has links to our Patreon and our Funky Fresh Discord. And just for Joe, even if you don't normally listen to us on YouTube, if you could go to Brainworms Presents and give us a subscribe and click the bell, Joe gets the little dopamine.
I do. It makes me
hit
happy
from that
when that subscriber number goes up.
Yeah, he talks about it every time.
It's a rush.
Every time it happens, we have to hear about it.
Is it a dopamine hit or a rush?
For him, it's probably the same.
Yeah, I mean, my baseline serotonin levels are so low that, really any amount of joy or pleasure is massive.
Yeah.
So from what I've gathered during the watch party, this is going to be a very aggressive episode of
This is a very aggressive show.
Is it really?
It has its moments.
I don't feel aggro.
That's because you're just always angry, so it doesn't feel abnormal to you to be confrontational.
Oh, hey, well.
All right, tell us about a fucking movie, Kane. Jesus.
What can I say? It's 1986's Critters. All right, it's puppets that get gooey.
But you know what? The critters aren't that gooey.
No, they're pretty dry.
Their faces were pretty gooey.
Yeah, around the mouth had some goo.
They're pretty furry, so I guess if they tried to goo that up, it would just be a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want sticky fur.
Yeah.
That never bodes well. But yeah, as Kane mentioned, Critters was released April 11th, 1986, with a runtime of 85 minutes and a budget of $3 million. And it did pretty solid at the box office, grossing $13.2 million. Stephen Herrick was born November 16th, 1958 in San Antonio, Texas. And Critters was his directorial debut. Herrick is best known as an American film director, his biggest being Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in 1989.
Hell yeah.
I mean, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead is also...
Yeah.
That's next on my list. That's also a blockbuster.
Tim Serstad, the cinematographer, also worked on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It had that feeling.
It did.
It had some, Bill and Ted vibes for sure.
Yeah, it did. Absolutely.
He was also a pretty regular director for the Walt Disney Company. And he directed The Mighty Ducks of 1992, Three Musketeers, the human version of 101 Dalmatians, and a ton of other non-horror stuff that I'm kind of stepping away from.
A lot of incredibly mediocre Disney films.
Sure. But I think that was that little window of time.
Right.
The Mighty Ducks was an incredibly popular film series.
That doesn't mean it was good.
That's not what I'm talking about, though. We're talking about this guy's claims to fame. You know?
Well, right. I'm not a big fan of the Mighty Ducks as a,
Yeah.
Because, he also directed Mr. Holland's Opus.
Which I remember being a pretty good movie, actually.
And being an incredibly successful movie as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The budget was $31 million and the box office was $106 million.
Whoa.
So this guy did some stuff. You know, it wasn't just Disney shit.
The whole cast and crew of this movie had pretty good long careers.
This film, Critters, was actually nominated for Best Film at the Fantasporto Film Fest.
Oh, no shit.
That's its only real distinction or nomination for anything, but yeah. The producer of Critters is Rupert Harvey, born somewhere at a time.
Okay.
And he's, pretty well known as a writer and producer of a good many films, including, Critters 1, 3, and 4. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where he was on 2. Maybe he said no, just straight out. It's no, I'm good.
Yeah, at first he was like, I'll only do the odd numbers, but then he agreed to 4.
Right.
Harvey was also the producer for the Blob remake of 1988, which recently celebrated its anniversary. It was released August 5th.
Nice.
Of 1988.
Nerd.
Yeah. And then he produced a horror film starring, this is awesome, and I need to watch this now, the horror film starring Snoop Dogg titled Bones that came out in 2001.
Interesting.
It also has Pam Grier in it.
Oh, no
and,
shit.
Yeah, I might need to watch that now.
It sounds
it
cool.
sounds like it's a good time.
Noted.
Yeah, Harvey also produced Ghost Storm, which was a TV horror movie released in 2011.
Was it like Sharknado, only with ghosts?
That sounds awesome.
That's a logical presumption, but I'm not sure. I don't know a single thing about it. And he also he produced a pair of... Now, this is all news to me. Being a horror fan, I don't know how this all slipped under my radar, but he produced a pair of Critters-based TV series, I suppose. And one was called Critters Binge. It was from the Sci-Fi Channel. And then Critters Attack.
Editor's note, Critters Attack was a 2019 made-for-TV movie for the Sci-Fi Channel. Critters A New Binge was a web series made for Shudder.
And
it's Critters A New Binge, right?
What is it?
Critters A New Binge?
No, that's Gremlins The New Batch that you're thinking of.
No. Critters A New Binge was a horror comedy web television series that premiered on Shudder March 21st, 2019. I'll have to take a look and see if it's still there.
The IMDb page just called it Critters Binge.
Okay.
I wonder if those are different things.
I don't know. It's I didn't know either of those projects existed, but they were both released in 2019. So on to the plot of Critters. Oh, that was a pretty good a mouthaman.
Mouthaman.
That's like a theremin with your mouth. Let's see here.
Take us there, JD. Paint us a picture.
All right. Close your eyes and
make a wish,
squint
count
with
to
your
3.
mind. Make a wish, count backwards from 99 to 0 as I take you upon this wild journey known to be Critters. We begin with a mischievously dangerous team of aliens known as the Krates, who are they're so incorrigible that they are being transported to a new asteroid prison.
Space jail.
That's exactly how it sounds, though. It's a jail, and they're just alien prisoners hurling through space.
But really, aren't we all prisoners hurtling through space?
That sounds like a Vin Diesel movie. That's what that sounds like.
It could be.
Escape from Asteroid Rock, you know? So it'd just be like fucking Nick Cage.
Right, like Asteroid Alcatraz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nick Cage.
Vin Diesel.
Yep, Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel and Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I'd watch that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you can't leave The Rock out of that one.
Sean Connery.
No, he's dead.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know Sean Connery was dead. Shit.
Damn. Well, let's take a second and lower our heads and...
No, I'm good. Let's just keep going. Let's talk about this movie.
That's what I was feeling. The Krates plot to escape, and they hijack the transport that was going to, take them to this new prison facility. And so they jet off into space. The warden at the prison doesn't like this very much and employs bounty hunters to find our escapees. So they all wind up on planet Earth.
Were any of them Dog the Bounty Hunter?
No.
Dog the Bounty Hunter would have been a kick-ass bounty hunter.
So the bounty hunter, the main bounty hunter, is actually Terrence Mann.
Mm-hmm.
And they're shape-shifting. Like, they take the form of whatever they're looking at and want to be, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Terrence Mann, who is playing Ugg, is like looking at a viewfinder because the kind of amorphous blob that is paying them to go hunt the Krates is like, hey, you're going to planet Earth, make sure you fit in and don't fuck shit up too much, right?
That sequence in the film had, I know that they were just programming the bounty hunters kind of like they do in the Matrix, but it had like a strange like Clockwork Orange vibe to me where remember when Malcolm was being, brainwashed. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that sequence.
It was fantastic. Like, I thought as far as like a sci-fi / horror sequence out of a lot of the films we watched, I felt like it was just very artful and interesting visually.
Yeah, the sci-fi parts of the movie were my favorites.
Yeah, Terrence Mann actually did perform as Johnny Steele, the power of the dark. Power of the Night.
The Power of Love.
Power of the Night.
Huey Lewis in the News.
No, it's Power of the Night by
That's
Terrence
Power
Mann.
of Love.
Yeah, it's The Power of Love
Johnny
by
Steele.
Huey Lewis in the News. I know you're talking about.
No, it's not the same song. I don't know why.
Yeah, Huey Lewis
why
rocked.
you guys fucking do that, but it's not. It's I hate you.
High five me, Joe.
Yeah. Huey Lewis's contribution to the soundtrack of this movie really made it what it was, I feel.
Huey Lewis isn't in the soundtrack.
He is, though.
But Kane was right. Huey Lewis was not a part of the soundtrack,
Lewis.
but Huey Lewis was rocking.
Who was Huey Lewis?
Well, that's what you said, wasn't it?
No.
Is that like the John Delancey, the god being from Star Trek, but also Huey Lewis?
Look, I'm gonna stop you guys right where this might have worked with fucking Crazy Chris being with us, but if you think that you're gonna get away with this shit on this episode, you got another thing coming. Don't fucking do it,
Got
Joe.
another thing coming.
God damn it! Do it.
I'm still thinking about, I said cue because I was thinking of a cue ball based off that reference you made to Joe earlier about bending him over a pool table.
Joe threatened to bend me over the pool table. That was not a...
It wasn't really a threat. It was more like an offer.
I thought we were talking about the 1986 movie Critters.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about Critters. That'll be fun.
Critters, that's right.
Fucking weirdos.
So we cut to rural Kansas.
Isn't all of Kansas rural Kansas, though?
Anytime I've been there.
I suppose that's pretty accurate.
Unless they've made some recent changes. Like recent in the last 5 years.
Everyone's on their way to Kansas.
Right.
Yeah. So we meet the Brown family. We have the father, Jay.
Played by Billy Green Bush.
And the mother, Helen, was played by who?
Played by Dee Wallace.
Excellent.
Who has been in a bunch of the movies that we've watched and is kind of weirded out like Jesus freak. Like in real life, not in the movie.
Sexually empowered teen daughter, April.
Yeah.
Played by Nadine Vandervelde.
Almost sexually aggressive teen daughter, I feel.
Not almost. Not almost. Definitely.
Which was refreshing in contrast to most 80s horror films where
Exactly.
there's always some gross,
Just horny jerk-off
horny
dude.
douchebag,
Yeah.
horny
I
guy
agree.
who is throwing himself at every woman he sees. That was just a nice contrast. And then our young son, Brad.
Played by Scott Grimes.
Scotty Grimes.
Which is actually a really good name.
It is. I wonder if it's
Yeah.
his given name or like a stage name.
It's like the self-fulfilling prophecy. When your name sounds famous, you become famous.
Scott Christopher Grimes. So, no, that is
Yeah.
his name.
Nice. Hell yeah.
He was shot out of a cannon toward greatness. Anyway,
He did write a soft rock song called Sunset Boulevard, which spent several weeks on the Billboard charts.
Good for him.
If there was a way that we could end the show with that,
No,
I would
good.
take that option in 2
Yeah,
seconds.
We'll get taken down.
He is also one of the 4 singers in Russell Crowe's band Indoor Garden Party. So that's
a
lot
lot
thing.
of information in
Wow.
one sentence.
Wow.
Russell Crowe had a band. Scott Grimes was in it. It had 4 singers. Like, there's a lot to unpack in that nugget of information.
That's like the Eagles with 4 singers, or like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
How the fuck do we keep getting back to the Eagles? I feel like this is an assault against me.
Yeah, I think it's something about you personally. You just attract the Eagles to yourself.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
So we meet the Brown family, a normal, just rural family.
Yeah, and like it's weird. It's like the movie was aware of the kind of archetypes that you see in 80s movies, like the hunky boyfriend and like the stern kind of serious, quit playing your music loud, Dad. Like it was aware of
And
those.
you mentioned the boyfriend who was Billy Zane.
Billy Zane.
Oh, fuck
God
yeah.
bless Billy Zane.
with that gorgeous fucking rat tail mullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a hell of a mullet. It really was.
Yeah, finish your
Yeah.
thought, Joe. Do it.
But it very consciously, like it was aware of those archetypes in 80s movies, but then kind of distanced itself from them in a really interesting way.
Yeah, for being the farmer dad,
Yeah.
he really he made farmer dad threats, but was actually kind of a caring, involved parent. And mom, so the funny thing for me in regards to Dee Wallace playing Helen, this movie references a lot of 80s pop culture, honestly,
Sure.
because she played Elliot's mom in
E.T.
E.T.
Yeah.
And Brad decides that he's going to hold his thermometer under the sink and heat it up. In E.T., it worked.
Yeah.
Elliot gave mom the tampered with thermometer and she was tricked.
And yeah, this one, he has a temperature of 106.
Yeah.
Very logical, mom.
So, quick side note. This movie and E.T. inspired me to attempt to do such a thing when I was a child.
Did it work?
No. So what happened was the thermometer
Oh,
exploded.
no.
Did you boil it?
No, I just put it under hot water and
Oh, wow.
it reached a temperature above 110 or whatever the thermometer's max was. And when it reached that max, the mercury just burst out the back of it, and I had to throw it away and try to hide the evidence.
That explains a lot. That mercury must have been absorbed through your skin.
What are you saying? You saying I'm mad?
I thought that was funny, that's all.
Wow.
As a hatter.
I like that JD says a thing to like talk shit and then feels like it's actually like hurt someone's feelings and then immediately feels bad about
I like that too.
You're such a good person, and it makes me sad that you have deigned to be friends with me. Because I'm just mean.
Oh, we were having fun for a second, that's all. Right. Listeners, if you ever think about the sound of our relationship...
We should talk about Critters.
This podcast.
Let's talk
We're
about
actually
Critters.
good friends. Yeah, Critters. Back to Charlie McFadden, who is our, like, basically...
Don Keith Opper.
Yeah, possible alcoholic, drug abuser, mentally ill person who...
The Looney Town
He
drunk.
just likes to party.
Yeah, he a little too much.
Nothing wrong with a little day drinking.
I'm fond of it myself, personally. This character gets pretty much dismissed by the entire town. He's just kind of like a yahoo. Anyway, there's this little incident that is pivotal because this little slingshot incident here where Brad takes the blame to try to protect Charlie. But
well, real quick. I know I do this to you every time, JD. And
sure.
I would apologize
I skipped some
again.
Stuff. No, don't apologize.
I would apologize again, but I'm not going to
intervene
anymore
when
because
I
I'm probably
fuck
just
up.
going to keep doing this. So we get like this opening scene of the family where we kind of get their family dynamic and all that stuff. Like dad's the hardworking farmer, mom is the diligent homemaker, Brad is the shit ass annoying kid, and April, the sister, is kind of the sex crazed high school teen. Like that's we get that set up, and then it kind of flips. And we get to take a look at, because the dad starts asking if anybody's seen Charlie, right? And so then it flips to the jail, right? And that's where we meet Harv, which is played by the perpetually grumpy M. Emmett Walsh. And he's like the sheriff or head cop. And then Lynn Shay, who is the dispatcher, that she's playing Sally. And basically that's how we meet Charlie McFadden. And he's sleeping it off for the night. But I would like to point out that there's like a hamster cage in the jail cell. So I don't think he just sleeps it off.
I think it's where he lives.
I think that's where he lives. I think that's his fucking room.
Yeah.
Max Stevens says subscribe to us on YouTube.
Yay.
Joe.
Yeah.
I need you to stay a little focused, buddy. Friend.
Get alerts.
Pal.
Get alerts when we get new subscribers.
Okay, back to Critters. Brad, gets grounded. And that evening,
Well, hold on. Again.
Oh my God.
Well, no, I mean, I want it to be clear why he got grounded, because this is when we learned that Brad's not a complete shit ass.
Right.
Because Charlie works for Brad's dad.
Right. Though he's like his farmhand.
But instead of working, he's just hanging out with Brad while Brad blows shit up with fireworks. Right. That's what's going on. And then he breaks Brad's fucking slingshot.
Yeah.
And after fixing it, he's trying to show Brad, because Brad's like, man, it just doesn't feel right anymore. And that's when Charlie shoots April in the buttocks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brad takes the fall because he doesn't want Charlie to get fired.
And
that's
already
solid.
said that.
Yeah, JD did go over all of that information.
I know.
So cool. Thanks for, regurgitating what I already said. And
well, I felt like you were the mama bird.
Yeah.
And you chewed that information up and you fed it to me. And
then you fed it to all
so
the
basically
listeners.
what you're saying is the listeners...
Hold on, wait, shut up. Joe, shut up. And then I chewed up this food and then spit it back to you.
Right. Well, you're like Gerber. It's not enough to like process food, because that still has a few chunks. What you did was completely take that puree of veggies or fruit, and then you just turned it into a creamy paste that's more easily digestible and absorbable into an infant system. And I'm assuming that you believe our listeners to be so infantile that they couldn't...
It does feel like that.
No, it was actually, I believe that Joe was. And so I was trying to smooth out the story for Joe. That's really what happened.
No, Makes sense.
I watched this movie when I was like 12 and understood it.
What actually happened is that I haven't been sleeping right for like a month.
There's that.
And even though I heard you say those things, my brain was like, oh, he missed a part, and then made me spit it back out.
Joe, would you stop sending Kane dick pics so he could sleep at night?
I'm trying to get him drowsy and help him sleep at night, but it doesn't seem to be working out that way.
That makes sense. Well, you know. So anyway, that evening, a meteor that Brad believes, what he believes to be a meteor, it's actually the Kreitz spaceship.
Yeah. Pretty cool spaceship design.
They commandeered to escape with.
Hey, JD. You know why moon rocks are better for soup than earth rocks?
Why are moon rocks better soup than earth rocks?
Because a moon rock's a little meteor.
Nice. I like that. Anyway, no one realized this meteorite is actually an alien spacecraft filled with critters. So, like, some farm animals start to get devoured, and a police officer also gets eaten.
Good.
Brad and his dad, they're kind of like poking around a little bit, trying to figure out what's happening. The critters basically slowly take over the farm, and they're fucking shit up left and right. Jay gets attacked by critters, but he barely escapes the cold hands of death.
Takes a shot with a poison dart that the Kreitz are able to fire off at people. It makes you sleepy.
That's true. And April, and you know, she nearly has her first sexual encounter in a barn with her boyfriend. He gets himself killed, but inadvertently takes a critter out with him by way of exploding fireworks.
We miss you, Billy Zane.
Wait, what? What? No, he didn't inadvertently do shit.
Didn't one of the critters die but because of a firework?
Billy Zane went to restart the tape they're listening to while they were necking. A critter ate his fingers, and then another one ate his belly. And then Brad walked up into the barn and fed a critter a firework. And I don't know if it was dead.
Oh. I just assumed that like one of them got
taken out. It had one
out.
of those things where it like expanded. You know how like that'll happen in cartoons and other things where like the big scary thing will just eat the explosive and then burp.
Right. Maybe I'm underestimating the critters. They're more resilient than I believed them initially.
They're hard to kill.
All I know is that it was definitely fun watching Billy Zane's character, Steve Elliott, go out of his way to try to not have sex.
Yeah.
He really was putting effort into
he did not want to have to take his clothes off to have a good time.
Yeah, Joe, I know that just because you don't have to take your clothes off to have a good time.
That's true. It's true.
That's what the moral of this is, right?
Yeah, really the emotional center of the movie.
Is that you don't have to take your clothes
to have
off
a good time.
to have a good time.
You definitely...
But April wasn't having it.
No, very aggressive.
Yeah, she came there to
persistent.
Party. Yeah, and good for her, you know, to be so in control of her sexuality. You know?
I mean, you're not wrong, but also bad for her for not respecting Billy Zane's boundaries.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is enthusiastic consent. Yeah. If you hear that, you're listening to us right now, enthusiastic consent, you know what that is. Don't pretend you don't, you shitbags.
So,
yeah, the explosive goes off in its stomach, it expands slightly, and then takes a nap or dies. We don't know.
I kind of thought maybe that critter bit the dust, but I could be wrong. Anyway, at this point, though, the farm becomes fully under siege by critters.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of hat tipping to Gremlins, because we see them just fucking things up. Like, not even necessarily just eating everything, but just destroying everything.
Sure.
Yeah, they're just chaos for its own sake.
Our brave Brad escapes and somehow runs into the bounty hunters and leads them back to destroy or capture the remaining critters.
Can we talk about the bounty hunters for just a second?
Go for it.
Because I enjoyed this movie tremendously, but the thing I don't understand and didn't understand at all about the bounty hunters from the get-go is that they also, wherever they go, just fuck shit up. There's no Kreitz at the church. There's no Kreitz at the bowling alley.
It's not their shit.
Right, but what I'm saying, though, is that there's none of the things they're hunting at those places, but they still fuck those places up.
Well, they don't know how to interact with a human world, you know, so they're just...
And I guess that friction was meant to be kind of the joke of the movie, but it's weird that like we take on forms of the planets that we're going to not attract attention, and then they go and cause chaos.
They attract as much attention as you could possibly.
Yeah.
The guy was like, what team is he on? And he like shoots a bowling ball like a rocket through, 10 pins and just utterly like obliterates the whole rack.
It seemed like a vulgar display of power.
They didn't have to do that.
That's really all it was.
Look what I can do.
Yeah. Like that bowling ball was not a crate. The pins, not crates.
No, not crates.
He just had a big fuck off gun, wanted to shoot it.
Right, and you guys were super hung up on the back of the bowling tees.
Yeah.
It was a Ghostbusters homage. That was cool.
It was.
Yeah, Pinbuster is a little homage to the Ghostbusters, but there was a bowling pin and the not allowed sign. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk my bowling team into that shirt now for our team name. I'm
I
down
think
to
you
be
should do it.
The Pinbusters.
It was an intersection of two things that JD loves, bowling and Ghostbusters.
And that's because busting makes me feel good.
Hell yeah.
Oh, God. But no, so the bounty hunters that he runs into have already left a trail of destruction.
Could we just take a second and acknowledge the main bounty hunter's hair?
Was gorgeous.
It was great.
That was just like, it looked like a wig almost. Like it was just feathered and like wild and kind of like a cross between like 80s Rod Stewart and like
80s Nick Cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Cave, Mick Jagger. I mean, he just had like all this stuff happen and it was like so like groomed and filled with product.
We should also talk about the fact that the first human killed in this movie was a cop.
I mean, we did. JD did mention that.
That was Ethan Phillips as Jeff Barnes.
Yeah, the cop was eaten by a critter. Yeah.
Yeah, but did we put emphasis on the fact that their first kill was a cop?
That's what they felt like was important, I guess, maybe. The critters, being the spiteful beasts that they are, destroy the farm, basically, and begin to take off, but not before Drunken Charlie takes out their spaceship with a Molotov cocktail filled with some type of booze, probably like a brown alcohol.
That was way more flammable than it should have been.
I mean, unless it was cask strength.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Sure.
Yeah, cask strength whiskey is basically like rock gut. That shit's like
It's just straight up moonshine.
like 150 to 170 proof.
It'll burn off your eyebrows.
I'm pretty sure that'll catch fire.
Yeah.
Because it didn't explode.
It's flammable.
It was just
highly
flammable.
flammable. Right. But I think that in the wake of those flames, some fireworks appeared to be set off.
The kid he left his loaded ass firecracker tube.
Yeah, so there's basically a standoff between the Brown family and the critters, right?
Right.
They send Brad to go get help, so he ends up meeting up with the bounty hunters, like JD said. But then the family themselves decide, fuck it, we're not staying in this room. We're getting out of here.
Yeah.
And so then, because I guess there was like a giant, like the critters in the first critter actually grow. If the more they eat, the bigger they get. And so they're like, fuck this, let's get out of here. And so they have like a standoff, and that's when they meet up with the bounty hunters. But Brad's little pyromaniac ass, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, that kid was a troublesome child.
Yeah. He was on his way to some bad places. Like he had like a bucket of fucking explosive powder that he was using to make his own M80s and whatnot. Right. But yeah, so he is going into the spaceship, like sneaks into the spaceship to save his sister, who got picked up by the giant critter and taken back to the ship. I'm assuming they took her back to the ship so they had something to eat on their flight. That's what my guess was.
Oh yeah, I failed to mention that she was kidnapped.
I was very proud of the movie for taking that moment to have the critters sexualize April, because they didn't.
Yeah, that character was very well treated in terms of lens and gaze and that whole...
Well, not just that, like the critters themselves. Like there's a lot of times in 80s horror movies, the bad guy, not only is he killing people, but he also does unwanting touching. Right.
Is a sexual deviant a lot of the time.
None of that shit happens. The critters literally knock her out with a sleep dart spine, drag her back to the ship for the sole purpose of eating her.
Yep.
And that was it.
And
that
causing
was cool
trouble. That seemed to be their main interest, is just like, does this cause trouble? Yes. Okay, let's do it.
That seems to be the critters' deal, is they just want to show up on a planet and like fuck around for a few hours, like cause very confined chaos.
Mischief.
Yeah, they just kind of fucked around on that farm for a while.
Yeah.
Grab a snack, which is a person, and then just go wherever, probably to another planet to fuck shit up.
Absolutely. So anyway, the bounty hunters, they give Brad this little communication device that pretty much lets us all know there will be sequels. And then, the presence of critter eggs, that also works toward that.
Right.
And the bounty hunters, they reconstruct the Browns family farm home. And that was a cool scene.
Which was nice of them since they blew it up.
Yeah, do you think that when Brad pressed that button and it recreated the farmhouse, that it also fixed the church and the bowling alley?
Let's hope so, because every
just
town
saying.
needs a bowling alley.
And a
That's
bookstore.
what I'm saying, though, is that they show up. They were specifically told by their amorphous blob alien employer, hey, don't fuck shit up like you did last time. So do you think that they had a contingency plan where they're like, well, we're going to fuck shit up, but we've got this device that can instantly repair all the shit we blow up?
Yeah. Hopefully that was the case. Then, the owners of the bowling alley come, the next morning, go back to their...
And then the government agents roll in and just unhappen the whole thing and black bag all the witnesses.
What is black bagging, Joe?
Where they take them away to be interrogated and then disappeared.
Yeah, like when you get a sack over your head and dragged into a van.
Yeah, and where do those vans go?
Government facilities. Why are you making me explain this?
Usually the warehouse somewhere in an undisclosed location in between waterboarding.
Yeah.
I don't believe any of that's real.
I mean, it's not because of aliens, but I mean, governments do shit like that all the time.
I miss Billy Zane.
You're Kane. Why are you like this?
Yeah.
But yeah, so, yeah.
What do you think about talking about the special effects?
I don't want to talk about any of this.
I am actually super excited to talk about the special effects because there might be some contention.
They were strong. Yeah. I think we are up against each other in terms of our thoughts over puppet quality.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to save it for when we talk about our experiences with the movie?
Well, we need to talk about the special effects.
The special effects. All right, why don't I go ahead and lay into that? So the Kyoto brothers were pretty much responsible for this. There was Kyoto Brothers Productions Incorporated, led pretty much by Charles Kyoto. And he was credited pretty much first as the critter designer and supervisor.
Thanks.
And then there was also Edward Kyoto, Stephen, and actually there was a sister in there too, Linda. And so anyway, this sort of family team, I'm assuming led by Charles, being that he actually designed the critters. But anyway, I'm assuming that they were the main people there to create and facilitate most of what you see in critter form anyway. There were other special effects designers and artists working as well. But I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Charles. I'm going to emphasize Charles before I get to some of the other special effects artists, because I feel like he had some of the really cool stuff. And as soon as I say some of these titles, you'll be able to kind of put it together that it's almost like it has his watermark on these other projects. Killer Clowns from Outer Space of 1988.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah. You need to watch it for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Screamers of 1995. He was credited, though, as additional crew, but he had a pretty significant role in the special effects of that film. And then he designed a creature in Alien Abduction of 2014. Stephen Kyoto actually worked on the TV show Monsters, creating one of the main monsters of episode 1. And Charles was responsible for the critters of 1 through 4, all the sequels. And then there's a pretty extensive list, though, of special effects artists involved with critters. So, you have like the Kyotos accounting for the puppets, but you still have, a good bit of slime, goo, and other, latex-based gelatinous substances. Very milky stuff happening in this movie. I loved when, in that scene that we had mentioned earlier, when the lead bounty hunter, the first one to assume a face, right? The reconstruction from bone to, muscle tissue to then flesh was pretty impressive. Yeah. Just a reverse, what was that? Some type of, reverse photography.
Right. Reminded me a lot of Hellraiser.
Yeah, he had strong Frank vibes. But yeah. Anyway, some of these substances were created by a few other special effects artists that I will name at this time. Casey Cavanaugh, not much in the way of horror in his career, for the exception of Scary Movie 2. I'm not certain we'll consider that a horror movie. Then there was Frank Siglia, Frank had pretty solid pedigree in horror. He started his career with a film called Jennifer in 1978. He worked on The Terminator, Critters, and then Shutter Island of 2010. Frank Seglia actually had the most special effects credit out of anyone involved with Critters. He had 175 special effects credits spanning several genres in film. Then there was Chuck Stewart, and he worked on Frightmare in 1983 and the X-Files movie of 1998. And then there's another pretty heavy hitter in the special effects department named Ken Turalo. And Ken has 69 special effects credits, including Critters, Phantasm 2, The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I know that's not horror, but I just enjoyed that movie so much that I had to throw it in. The TV series Elf between 86 and 90. Now I know, once again, but just the fact that Elf is a puppet, I thought that was relevant to being involved with Critters. So that's pretty much the main team working on the special effects for Critters. And then, there was the Kyoto employees, I assume. There was a whole list of other artists that all kind of fell under that, umbrella of the Kyoto brothers. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have for the special effects.
Alrighty. Well then, Joe, why don't you give us your personal experience with this film?
Yeah. I watched this movie, in the 90s when, Critters and Gremlins and, those kind of movies were not happening, but, when my generation kind of watched them. And it was fun, and I had fond memories of it. And then we did this dumb puppet season and watched it with all of you. I don't have much to say about it. It's a fun 80s puppet kind of sci-fi horror comedy.
Yeah.
It's probably the best movie of the puppet horror movies we've watched this season in terms of just overall competence of filmmaking.
Right.
And the strongest acting so far.
Yeah, absolutely the strongest acting. And you can kind of tell that by pretty much everyone that worked on it having already and then going on later to do a lot of really well-known things. But yeah, I don't have a lot of commentary outside of that. It's just a structurally solid 80s lighthearted horror sci-fi romp. If you like that kind of thing, check it out.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. JD, go ahead and give me your personal experience with the film.
So yeah, as far as my impression of Critters goes, I definitely watched this movie close to its release date. Probably, early 90s, I'm assuming. I don't remember exactly when. I know this was one of those movies that I would have rented from the video store.
Same.
Yeah, it's probably how I saw it too.
Yeah, and I definitely enjoyed the film, and especially at the age that I saw it at. It was probably not really appropriate for children, like most of the films that we watch, but
we saw them anyway.
Yeah, for some reason it had a little bit more of I remember we had a few episodes like The Curse or The Gate. It had more of a probably a family friendlier vibe than some of the movies we've watched. Maybe it was just the acting that was maybe so much better, and the fact that, the critters weren't overtly creepy in a sexual way. I think that made it maybe seem a little bit more young person aligned.
They ate people and there was blood, but they didn't rip people's guts out and that kind of thing.
Sure.
It was kind of baby's first horror. If you can take Critters, then maybe you can.
You can definitely take Critters too.
Right.
I believe Critters is a series that gets worse as it goes on. I'd be interested in testing that theory in later seasons.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, as far as to continue on with my impression, it's a charming film. I think the special effects are particularly well done. There are scenes that are very strong. They do some fun, animation style effects, but also the puppeteering. They use the gloves, and the animatronic bits. Some of the, manning those puppets, the construction of the set played a role in that.
Right.
To be able to make them move. And I think there were even a few instances where just the puppet was thrown or rolled like a bowling ball. Yeah, I don't know. They must have stuffed a little dry ice in the one that, rolled itself into the toilet as it was
was on fire.
Yeah, it was on, got a little too hot, needed to cool off
one of
quick.
the standoffs, the Brad throws a oil lantern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it explodes on just the rug.
Which again seemed like a long-term solution to a short-term problem.
Yeah. So yeah, the characters I think in this movie were more personable and more lovable than a lot of the films we've watched so far this season. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much all I had to say. I still enjoy this movie. Sometimes I watch a film way back when and then I see it again now and I'm just kind of like looking at it sideways, but I still feel like this holds up and it's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Yeah. Real quick, listeners, what you don't know is that JD and I are actually animatronic puppets controlled by Kane.
Well, just because Kane tries to put his hand up your butt doesn't mean you're a puppet.
Stop.
Yeah, well, my personal experience with the film is this was one of the ones that my dad let me and my brother pick out without screening it beforehand.
Yeah.
Again, there's like a horny teenager in it, but there's no overt like nudity or anything like that. So he was fine with critters eating people.
Yeah, very light, dry humping. There was no gratuitous, anything of a strong sexual nature. So
yeah, so I mean, I have a
care.
fondness for this film. I do think that it held up. I haven't watched it in probably 20 years, but rewatching it, I definitely enjoyed it just as much as I did when I was a kid. I thought that the critters were fantastic. They have their own little language, which was actually a mixture of Japanese and French.
That's pretty cool.
But I'm glad that there were subtitles that gave us an insight that these were not just mindless devouring monsters. Like they were dickheads. Right. Like they were actually assholes.
Yeah, like that was kind of the whole that they just wanted to cause mischief.
And I don't think it was just mischief. Mischief is, putting saran wrap on the toilet. Like these guys wanted to eat everything and destroy everything.
That's fair.
Like that's not mischief.
Right.
Well, you know what you'd really do if you put the cellophane on the toilet, like the Ghoulies brand of mischief would be to like cook everyone like a pot of spicy chili that was laden with laxative.
Right.
And then stretch the saran wrap over the toilet bowl. They were next level mischief, a high level of mischief.
But these guys
including murder.
Bite your legs off and eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good times. I enjoyed it a lot. I actually enjoy this movie more than Ghoulies, even though I've watched Ghoulies more. I've seen Ghoulies more times than I've seen Critters. I just thought the puppets looked better. I felt like they felt more real, like they were in that world. Whereas the Ghoulie puppets to me always felt like puppets.
Sure.
They never really move. All of their movements are very slow and concise because they had a fucking teeny... No, they actually had a bigger budget for Ghoulies than they had for Critters.
And they used it in stupider ways.
Yeah.
Felt like the Ghoulie puppets now, if we're going to go ahead and...
Open this can of worms.
Open that can of worms, right. I feel like the Ghoulie puppets... I enjoyed the Critters puppets, but I will say this much. When you're 80% covered in hair, how intricate of a puppet are you actually making? You only have to focus on the face. The face was the only part of that puppet that was really, like, designed, and the rest of it was essentially a ball covered in fur.
Well, I mean, the hands and the feet, too.
Well, okay, but if we were to, put these images side by side, the Ghoulie puppet and the Critter puppet... I would be curious of our listeners' thoughts on which film had better puppets, because those were some gooey, milky, gelatinous, disgusting, pus-covered puppets in Ghoulies, and I favored them. Ghoulies still, for me, holds up as a better puppet, and just a more fun representation of mischief and evil and a lot of other things that I could go on to describe it with.
I kind of take the middle ground in that I agree that the Ghoulies puppets, they were certainly gooier. They were more unique. Like all of the critters looked like all of the critters.
And their mouths were so foul when the Ghoulie puppet opened its mouth. I mean, there was just booger hanging down.
They were so gross and monstery, and they worked better in that way. But the Critters puppets did look like they existed more in the world of Critters. Like the Ghoulies puppets always looked like a puppet.
Right.
Sure.
That was where I stood on it, honestly, was that I felt like the Critters looked like they were, and that's, 80s practical effects.
Yeah, there wasn't CGI.
And those puppets, I felt, looked like they were real.
Sure.
And I know that, they were covered in hair, but that's what good filmmakers do, is they go, okay, we want to show these things a lot. Because there was a hell of a lot of critters in this movie. Like, you saw them a lot. They were always popping up in the screen. Whereas with the Ghoulies, it's the same thing as like Puppet Master. They were only on screen so much. And I
feel like we saw a good bit of Ghoulie.
Right, but they were still not as much Ghoulie as there was critters.
I think we even commented that the Ghoulie to movie ratio was not what we wanted.
Exactly.
Not as bad as Puppet Master 1, though. Holy shit.
No, there's no puppetless movie like Puppet Master.
You're talking about an hour and a half movie and there are 5 minutes without a puppet? That's not ridiculous.
Not great. But like I said, that's what the filmmaker, all right, we're going to make these creatures, they're going to do this thing, but we want to show them on screen a lot, and we don't have $30 million to put into the film. So this is what we'll do. We'll design them. And I'm only speaking as somebody that watched the film. I don't know if that's why they made the critters look like that. But it was a lot easier for them to have those things on screen. And they still looked more real than the Ghoulies, who were on screen less, but had more goop. They had more depth.
They required more attention per moment, if you think about it. Because, like, how do you keep that ooze fresh and gelatinous looking?
You need a Vaseline applier.
Even if you're showing them less, exactly, like they're like, all right, send in the, whatever that person's title is that goes and sprays goop on this puppet,
Go hose down the puppets.
So, I mean, I agree that I felt like the Ghoulies were more unique.
They felt more macabre to me.
Yeah, I mean, the critters were more like, they were alien. They weren't demons. I felt that there was definitely...
So their physiques had a definite form. They were like a consistent form, whereas the Ghoulies were just kind of like, oh man, like they could take multiple forms. And sometimes they were malformed or deformed or just, very bizarre in their structure.
But I do think that we should address the fact that both Ghoulies and critters
are awesome.
Well, yeah, they were awesome, but they were definitely biting off Gremlins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did we look at that timeline? Was Gremlins
Gremlins came out first.
Yeah, it does seem like the gooey puppet thing. Gremlins kind of started that ball a rolling.
Yeah. And then these two films sort of caught the coattails.
Well, the thing to keep in mind, though, is that Critters was actually, the idea for Critters is just as old, if not older, than, at least this is what's claimed. They were actually part of a nightmare that one of the writers had.
Oh, wow.
Just these aliens that are small and eat people. Like that was a nightmare that they had, but they marketed it as a thing that ate gremlins, essentially. That was like, these are worse than gremlins.
Even the style of the filmmaking, it kind of felt like there was some biting of Gremlins.
In Critter's defense, there was a lot of pop culture references that were throughout the film.
That's true, too.
You had some Star Wars references. You had some E.T., which, having Dee Wallace in there, made it even more noticeable. You had some Gremlins. So there was definitely some of that. But I think that the popularity of Gremlins made the movies Ghoulies and Critters have to go, okay, well, even if our ideas aren't Gremlins and we're not taking from that, that's our competition. So if you liked Gremlins, you're gonna love Ghoulies. So if you liked Gremlins, look at fucking Critters, man. They're scarier.
Yeah.
And that's actually a comment about Critters 2 is that Mick Garris directed that film. And he actually wanted Critters 2 to be scarier because Critters 1 is more horror comedy.
Right. I guess we'll have to watch Critters 2 next season.
Yeah. We'll put it together.
I'm still lobbying for us eventually getting through the Ghoulies franchise because I'm here to see...
You want to see Ghoulies go to college.
The Ghoulies go to college.
You want that so much.
Ready for that. I just want to see them get these useless degrees that they're just riddled with debt.
I think that's not the movie that we're going to get to see, JD. That's not...
Well, in my mind, they're 40 and they're just like looking at this stack of bills and being like, I still don't have the job that I went to school for.
I work at Starbucks.
Yeah, and like I am underneath this insurmountable amount of debt, and just when is our leadership going to forgive this debt and like take care of its people in that way.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the subject matter of Ghoulies Go to College.
No, I don't think that's going to happen at all.
In that case, then, if it's just ghoulies, causing mischief on a college campus, I'm here for that too.
All right, folks. If you watch Critters, or if you have watched Critters, and you're like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? Why are they saying these things? Feel free to let us know. You can go to our website, we give you brainworms.com, as well as almost all of the places that podcasts live. If you go to YouTube, Joe in particular is excited if you leave a comment, subscribe, like our videos, and all that jive.
And click the bell. Click that bell.
Oh, yeah. Click it.
Click the bell.
You don't want to forget that
Click
part.
it.
It's like right next to the subscribe button. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. It's just minuscule space over.
Minuscule space over. Absolutely. That sounds like a bizarre indie rock band.
What?
Yeah. We come up with a lot of cool band names on this podcast.
The minuscule space over? That doesn't sound
I see where
like
you're
a...
coming from. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Felt
You're welcome,
like that.
people.
So Joe's going to be super excited because next week we're going to be watching Demonic Toys.
Demonic toys.
I love full moon movies
And he
so much.
desperately has wanted to watch this. He wanted to watch Demonic Toys versus Puppet
Yeah,
Master.
couldn't find it because full moon has just suppressed its existence for some reason.
Probably just to ruin Joe's day.
Probably.
I think you can get like a DVD copy of it for like
It's very
$200 if you're...
And as we move through this season, we'll even try to make the plot a little bit easier to glide through.
No promises.
Instead of just me and JD arguing over plot points or me repeating plot points that he's already said. We'll sort that out.
Yeah.
Or we won't. You never know. It could just be a fucking shit show the whole time.
It's good to unfurl things in a digestible way.
So
I'll
if you get
unfurl
the
some
chance,
things in a
watch
digestible
Demonic
way.
Toys so that you'll already know what we're talking about and can be like, all right, I guess I get it. That's fine. Whatever, idiots. That kind of thing. All right, I'm going to hit the button.
Let's just do that.
Those were some gooey, milky, gelatinous, disgusting, pus-covered puppets, booger hanging down, like